All right, let's see if this works. They changing some things. Okay, I think this works. Okay, perfect. Oh my gosh, you guys. So Zoom asked me a whole bunch of weird questions that they don't normally ask when I went to go live straight from Zoom. So here I am just doing a live straight to the group. And that's all good. We figure things out around here. Okay. So what I want you to do is grab your pen, grab a piece of paper, because today I'm throwing down some knowledge on you. Got some things I want you to use your brain today and your emotions, right? So we're going to talk about emotion and why it matters so much. So since I had to change what the heck I was doing here real quick, let me just turn this down. Okay. All right, so today I want to talk about emotion and why it matters. And here's the thing, you guys, of all the things we're taught in school, emotional intelligence is the most tragically missing piece in our education. Okay? Every single thing we do in our lives is because of how we think it will make us feel. Okay? Every single thing we don't do in our lives is because of how we think it will make us feel. Okay? So seriously, think about that. Every decision we make, every dream we achieve, every dream we let die, every relationship we nurture, every relationship we ruin is based on how we want to feel. Okay? Feelings are directive. Okay? We naturally avoid any negative emotion because of how it feels. And we naturally move towards any positive emotion because of how it feels. So we become humans searching out feelings in the night with no understanding of how they work. So that's why so many of us indulge in overpleasure or false pleasure. Okay? We overindulge in food and alcohol and drugs and sex and technology, even work or exercise. Okay? We become pleasure and dopamine junkies, chasing our next pleasure high. Okay? It's also the reason why we're so limited when it comes to our potential. Okay? It has nothing to do with the available opportunities and everything to do with our desire to avoid any discomfort. So, an emotion or a feeling, can use those interchangeably, is simply a vibration in our body caused by a thought in our mind. So, every single thing we do in our lives is because of how we think it will make us feel. So, don't confuse emotion or a feeling with an involuntary sensation, okay? So, feelings are caused by what we think, and sensations are involuntary bodily reactions, right? Hunger, cold, hot, thirsty, sick, physically tired, right? And all the physical sensations. And then like frustrated and cranky and lonely, agitated, bored, overwhelmed. Those are all emotions. Okay, so a good way to think about it is emotions start in the brain and travel to the body, and sensations start in the body and travel to the brain. So a lot of times people will question whether the thought really comes first. Okay, they're convinced that the feeling is first, but that is never the case. The thought is always first, even though you might not be aware of what you're thinking when you start to feel a certain way. Okay, the only time a feeling comes first is when it's an involuntary sensation. So, first, you have over 60,000 thoughts running through your brain every day, and you can't possibly be aware of every single one. And I can't remember the number, but I just heard the number the other day, the percentage of the thoughts that we actually are aware of, right? So, involuntary sensations, like for example, if someone yells at you, you might immediately feel scared, and then it might feel involuntary um, because the voice is loud, right? It might just startle you. But there is still a thought causing the reaction. It's not simply the yelling, okay? So, like if you knew the person was an actor, or maybe it was your kid jumps out and you walk down the hall, and like every single day that kid jumps out and like scares you, tries to scare you, right? You wouldn't be upset about it, and you would probably get used to it, or you might just jump every time, right? But we're going to talk about emotions. So emotions start in the brain and travel to the body, okay? So here's the thing, you guys. We are supposed to have negative emotion as human beings. Okay? Let me say that again. We are supposed to experience negative emotion as humans. Right? Nobody tells us this. They tell us we're supposed to chase happiness all the time. We're supposed to be happy, happy all the time, right? Negative emotions are bad. But negative emotion makes positive emotion possible, right? Sad makes happy exist, right? You can't have sorrow and grief without joy and love, okay? So, with only positive emotion, we don't even know we're having positive emotion, right? If you think about it, if you never had any negative emotion, you would probably not even be aware that you were having positive emotion, right? So, like, what makes, say, abundance feel so amazing is because we know what scarcity feels like. Right? So, negative emotion lets us know what we don't want. And when we know what we don't want, then we more easily can find out what we do want. Here's the thing, our experience as humans includes 50% negative emotion. It's totally normal. So, the better we get at processing negative emotion, the more freedom we're going to have, right? So, most of us, till we learn to manage ourselves, make negative emotion so much worse than it has to be. We cause our own suffering, okay? Negative emotion is totally harmless. So, what does that mean when I say it that? So, you may say, but Melanie, negative emotion hurts. But really, think about why it hurts. Okay? Negative emotion makes positive emotion possible. It's not because it's intolerable physically. Even the worst emotion in the world is really not that awful physically. So imagine if there was a way for me to inject you with an emotion for like 60 seconds. I'd warn you that humiliation, we'll say humiliation, is going to be vibrating in your body. You could handle it, no problem. You'd feel flushed in your face. You might feel, like your heart quickening, and you might start sweating. Sweat in your pores, right? Break it down to just the facts. This is not the end of the world, right? But we create suffering by resisting our emotions. We make them worse. So think about like reacting to emotion and compounding it by freaking out. When you push against the emotion and you dramatize it, you create the suffering. And suffering is always optional. When we're fearing and resisting negative emotions, we suffer. And when we have compassion and allow it in, that's when we grow and thrive. So, to summarize all that, negative emotion is part of the human experience. When we allow it, then we have authority over it. And when we resist it, we suffer. Okay. So, how do you allow an emotion? So, allowing is a skill that you have to learn and practice. It's not the same as reacting to an emotion, it's not the same as resisting, and it's not the same as just pretending it's not there and avoiding it. So, let's say, for example, you were feeling angry. When you allow that feeling of anger without resisting, without reacting or avoiding, You'll notice it by observing it with compassion. So, the easiest way to do this is to describe the emotion in detail. And I like to write it down sometimes if I'm available to do that in the moment, right? So, do like a body scan. Well, I always recommend like do a body scan like 5, 6 times a day. Just kind of pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling? Okay. And pay attention, right? Just pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling? And maybe you just start with this: I feel bad, I feel good, I feel negative. But try to name it if you can. But sometimes it's hard when you're really new to feeling your feelings and noticing your feelings. So what am I feeling? And then instead of trying to get rid of it, just breathe it in. Okay? Allow it by like opening your heart up to it. Move towards it, right? I know I can handle the emotion. It's just a vibration in my body. And then I'll usually start to feel my body wanting to tighten up against it. And that's okay. Nothing's gone wrong. Just kind of sit back and release it, release that tightening, and continue to just open up to it. Where is it in your body? Okay. And just let the emotion be there. Let it be heavy. Let it buzz or vibrate or agitate. So, whatever the emotion needs to do in your body, in my body, I allow it without suffering. Okay. So I like the metaphor my coach teaches about carrying around a heavy purse of emotion for as long as it takes. Um, I've gone for days before just carrying this heavy purse filled with a deep sadness, maybe some sorrow, maybe anxiety, maybe some anger, and just holding it in this heavy purse for as long as it takes. But as soon as I am observing and describing it, I can feel myself soften. When I accept it without judgment, I can just allow it to be there and just notice it's there. So, you guys, I want to tell you this skill is one of the most important you will ever, ever, ever learn. Because once you're good at it, it can completely change your relationship with yourself, all the people you come in contact with, because you're not going to be reactive. You're going to be the compassionate observer of yourself and observer of other people. There's a lot of people out there who don't know how to manage their emotions, right? But it doesn't matter, because if you know how to manage your mind and emotions, it just doesn't matter. Everything in your life changes when you can really embrace that. So, let's talk about emotion avoidance, or as my coach has called it, dream stealing, right? So when you avoid your emotions, you just like cut them off from yourself. You cut yourself off from yourself. Okay? That is the opposite of growth and evolving. It will cause you to like stagnate and just buffer. So you're going to recognize that you're avoiding emotion because you're afraid you're going to feel out of control. Right? You're afraid to feel it. You'll find yourself procrastinating and using external things to distract you from what's going on internally. So, what are you unwilling to feel? Do you know the emotions that you are most likely to avoid? So, this is where I want you to write that down, because I want you to think about it later. You can think about it right now as I'm talking, but write down, what are the emotions I am most likely to avoid? And I want you to think about that. And then be very aware of how you manipulate yourself in order not to feel any sort of discomfort. So it does require you to pay very close attention to your body and to consistently ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? So some examples might be, what emotion are you avoiding? You don't want to feel discomfort. And there's so many different flavors of that. You don't want to feel fear. You don't want to feel sadness. You don't want to feel vulnerable, right? maybe some of those. What are you manipulating then in order not to feel that? Are you scrolling social media? Are you going to grab something to eat when you're not really hungry? Are you overeating? Are you reaching for alcohol? Are you having a few too many glasses of wine or beer or whatever? Okay, what are you manipulating in order not to feel any sort of discomfort? So, emotion is fuel for action, right? Emotions drive every action we take. So, think about it like a car, right? Good fuel makes a car run well, right? No fuel stops the car. Same with us. So, where do we get the fuel? Most of us just get our fuel of emotions just haphazardly. We just wait and see what comes along in our life. We wait for inspiration, we wait for motivation, and we wait for excitement just to come upon us before we get to work, right? We just think, well, inspiration will just arise from the deep. It doesn't work that way, right? With our cars, we go and get fuel, and we're even willing to pay for it. So we make sure it's high quality and that we have plenty of it. We need to take the same responsibility for our emotional fuel that we use for our lives. We can't rely on other people or external things to create that fuel, those emotions for us. Um, so when um, I got a text. I'm just trying to keep an eye on something, and then a text popped up, and it took my attention. So anyway, we need to take the same responsibility for our own emotional fuel for our lives, right? So this is something that we can work on. So we can learn how to generate emotion as we need it, and we can learn to take full responsibility for all of the emotions that we are presented with. And we can learn to embrace discomfort, right? We can decide what we want to feel, and then we can feel it on purpose. Our thoughts create our emotions. Always, always, always. Oftentimes we think our thoughts are just facts. We think our circumstances are just facts, and then we get stuck, okay? So often we are choosing emotion that doesn't serve us without even realizing it. Because again, we get our thoughts mixed up with facts. So when you're choosing an emotion and you're just kind of spinning in it, like kind of on a hamster wheel, you feel like you're doing something, you're worrying maybe or overwhelmed or whatever, but it's not getting you anywhere. Okay, that's called an indulgent emotion. So um, the most common indulgent emotions I would say are like confusion. You're telling yourself, I don't know, and you're just spinning in confusion, but you think it's just a fact that you don't know. Overwhelm. You're telling yourself, I have so much to do, and you think it's a fact. So, overwhelm. Emotional exhaustion, right? At the end of the day, if you get home from work or, shut off your computer and walk away from work or whatever, um, if you're feeling exhausted, it's because of what you've been thinking. Okay, you're indulging in that emotional exhaustion, worry, boredom. Okay, indulgent emotions. So here's the thing, as far as I've been able to tell, none of these emotions have any upside. They have no use for us. They prevent us from moving forward. Okay, it's like putting Coke in the gas tank of your car. Feels like you filled it up, but you haven't filled it up with anything useful. Okay? So it's very important that you make an effort to eliminate those emotions from your life whenever possible. So again, doing that check-in. What am I feeling? Naming it. Where does it feel in my body? Am I resisting it? Okay? Um, and then knowing that it is caused by a thought. So what am I thinking? Um, let's see. So yeah. Um, They're also, oh, indulgent emotions are also like bad habits too. They're bad habits. They keep our brain busy but not productive. And we're just used to being there. We're used to being stuck in overwhelm, indecision. So spend some time thinking about these questions for you. Okay. What are the most useful emotions, do you think? Right? What are the most useful ones? Committed, focused, determined, courageous, just whatever. You get to you get to brainstorm that. What are the most debilitating emotions? Terror, humiliation, embarrassment, shame. I would say shame is probably up there at the top of debilitating emotions. We put our little shame blanket on and we want to crawl in bed and never just hide. We just hide from the world, right? What are what are your most indulgent emotions? What do you find yourself falling into? I think mine is probably indecision, maybe confusion, right? I don't usually fall into the worry trap or anxiety, things like that. Um, I have to catch myself when I'm like, well, I just don't know. So when my clients tell me that, I totally hear you and I get you. And I've done a lot of work on that. Right? So, what are your most indulgent emotions? And then think of your emotions as ingredients for results. And look at a result you've created in your life that you love. Maybe it's your job or your career or your relationship, or maybe your relationship with your children or grandchildren. Maybe it's something that you've created, right? Look at that and think of something in your life that you've created through your thoughts, feelings, and actions that you love. What are the emotions that created it? Right? So what we really want to do is for you to shift from avoiding, reacting, or suffering because of your emotions to creating and allowing emotions. Okay, so here's a daily exercise that you can do, and it really requires you to pay attention and stay really deliberate in your work. So it's very repetitive and it's easy to dismiss as tedious, but I don't want you to give into that. It's so important. Repetition is so important as we're creating new ways of thinking, building new little thought highways, right? Getting those neurons to fire in new ways. So, what I want you to do is repeat something that will increase awareness and deliberateness. And that's what this exercise is designed to do. You can do it at any point in the day. Um, just make sure you do it at least once a day. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. The first thing, I want you to ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? That creates awareness. Okay, so you need to become aware. What am I feeling? Number two, what does this feeling feel like specifically? And this is where you get out of your head, get out of your thoughts, and focus in on your body. You become the observer, right? You're the observer of how this feels in your body. So describe it, okay? And number three, what do I want to feel right now? That's being deliberate. So if our thoughts create all of our feelings, and you're feeling something you don't want to feel, and this is not about avoiding, this is something we coach through when we work together. We coach through it, but you get to decide, what do I want to feel right now? And then number four is, how can I practice this feeling? So say you're in the middle of your workday and maybe you're feeling annoyed. You're at work, you're feeling annoyed. You think it's because of your coworker or your boss or whoever. I guarantee you it's not. That's a whole nother class. It's your thought about your coworker, what they're doing, or what your boss said, or the customers or your clients, right? But you ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? And I may decide, I'm feeling annoyed. And then what does this feeling feel like? Like, how does it feel? You go into your body and you're like, oh, I'm annoyed. I feel like I get tense when I'm annoyed. Kind of, it feels like almost kind of buzzy to me. Like, oh, I'm just annoyed. Like a little buzzing kind of, right? And can even write like, okay, what is annoyed? I take notes sometimes on what does this feeling feel like? Little nuances, right? And then number three, ask myself, what do I want to feel right now? Because I sure don't want to be at work or working with a client or a colleague or someone feeling annoyed. So what do I want to feel right now? And maybe you want to feel curious. Curious is one of my favorites. I love to feel curious. It takes me out of judgment every time, which is what annoyance, you're probably judging something that someone else is doing, which is causing you to feel annoyed. So if you want to step out of that, maybe curiosity. Like, I'm curious why my colleague said that, or my boss did that, or my client said that, or whatever's going on. So it could be curiosity, or maybe it's compassion. Maybe it's determination. Maybe you're just like, I just want to get through the day. And that's okay too. Determination, determined, it's not even considered really a positive emotion, right? It's still kind of like, determined, but it feels better than annoyance, and it will have a net positive result. If you're feeling determined, you're going to take actions from that place, and you're going to get yourself through your day, and you can look at it later. You can look at what thoughts led up to feeling annoyed later. Um, so, what would you have to be thinking to create that feeling of determination, right? So then number four is, how can I practice this feeling? All right. So you just practice feeling determined to get through your day. I want to offer that that's not the goal. If we were to coach together, we would get you through that neutral space, right? Of just trying to get through your day. But it's a good place to start instead of just going through your day feeling annoyed, frustrated, self pity, right? That self pity is probably another indulgent emotion that a lot of people feel, and they think, well, this is just my circumstance. And you just spin in the self pity, and you never think different thoughts and create different feelings, which are going to drive different actions to create a whole different result for you. So, that is what I have for you today on feelings, okay? The importance of feeling your feelings is infinite. Feelings are the fuel for everything we do in our life, everything we avoid in our life. Okay? Think of that car analogy. You fill it with Coke, and you're like, well, I filled it up. It's not useful. Trying to fill your tank with feelings like frustration, annoyance, it's not useful. But you do want to get to the bottom of it. What am I thinking? Why am I feeling this way? So that's what I have for you today. And thank you so much. I can't see anything, so I don't know if, if there's any questions as I was talking. Um, so let me know there are, if you have any questions, if there are topics you want me to touch on, more classes you want me to do. I'm going to be hosting so many more free like master classes and things. I have a master class Thursday at 5:30. I've posted it in this group, and you can register for the link. And it's how to lose weight for the last time. Okay, it's not about dieting. It's not about um, willpower, restriction, deprivation. It has nothing to do with that. And the fact that maybe you are overweight, how it's not necessarily your fault. Like we think, oh, we're just broken. We can't. Well, we're just special snowflakes who can never lose weight, right? But I want to share with you that that's not true, and I will tell you why. So join me Thursday at 5:30. If you register, I'll send out the replay as well. Or for people in this group, I'll just post the link. So, all right, lovelies. I hope you have an amazing evening, and I will talk to you again soon. All right. Bye bye.